has to get the sale. And in my opinion, it's they're always thinking about like commission and like how do I get fed? And unfortunately, there's plenty of times that we operate in that space. Has anybody seen an example of that recently? Maybe with one of their realtors or anybody where they've seen a salesperson operating on a sale that maybe was like questionable or really shouldn't happen?
Yes, I got an email from a desperate realtor last week asking me or telling me that a client he's been working with has decided to go buy a FSBO and how he could bake in the commission. He was desperate.
Well, yeah. He wanted the commission because he deserved it, or he was mad, or it just he didn't.
Yeah, he'd been helping this guy for a while, and I don't know. It was just it was so like transactional and desperate sounding. I was just like, oh my goodness. I think I told McCain about it, I believe.
Got it. Yeah, that's a good example. Anybody else?
Yeah, I talked to a realtor out in California, and it was great. You know, everything was going good, and then she just kept giving me all of her shit deals. So I had to fire her, and I just told her, I was like, you need to like raise your head up and stop trying to find the stuff on the ground and start, looking up for, better deals. It's awful. She's like swimming in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael?
I think my most recent example is talking to a realtor, and this is like, hey, we got to get him into a house. We got to get him closed by end of November. Now, granted, we all want closings in November, right? Of course. But you could just what I took from that conversation was he needs to pay his mortgage, right? He needs to pay his car note. And by the way, his daughter's getting married at the end of October, right? So he's got to pay those bills. But it was never about the customer. It was about just get him into a home, get paid, and it was just super transparent. Now, that's my most recent example. That was last week.
Yeah.
I had one. We're actually closing today, but the client called me and wanted to buy a house from an auction. Showed up to the auction, and he had texted his realtor and basically politely just said, "Hey, we're not going to go forward together. I found this house at the auction. I'm going to go here and try to get it." And she showed up to the auction.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And I called her and was like, "Hey, that was," the client was pretty upset about it. I was like, "Hey, that's a little inappropriate." I was like, move on.
What was her intention, Grant, of showing up at the auction?
I guess to try to get paid somehow, like show that he was represented, that she was a buyer's rep. But I said, hey, like this is a $300,000 house. This isn't going to be life changing for you. So that was my most recent one, and she respected that. But crazy, just crazy.
Wow.
That's pretty desperate.
Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest thing is like when you're in the midst of it and you're aware of it and you're working with realtors or whoever. I mean, it is one of those things where do you mention it or do you not? That's a tough one, but those are good examples. So the on the little thing, we had said this, that like the prisoner pretty much says, how can I help you today? Or what can I help you with? That's like the first thing on their mind. How can I help? Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think that it's a bad thing to say, how can I help? Or tell me about your situation in an initial phone call. But if nothing is predicated prior to that about how you work and who you are and what you do and all that stuff, like there's a problem. So the prisoner says, how can I help you today? Or how can I help? What else did I wrote down? What can I help? What can I do to help you? Or how can I help? Which, by the way, that sounds pretty good on the surface, but it's really not. The prize person says, here's what I do. Here's what I do. So has anybody had an example of the two of these recently in a sale situation that they can explain or that they've experienced this? And it doesn't have to be obviously in real estate. It can be if you bought a watch, if you got an estimate for, home renovation, or you did something specific where there were two distinct examples of this.
This is Natalie.
Yeah.
I'll say I'm more the prize to the customer, but I have found myself being a prisoner to the agents because I just assumed all loan officers were kind of created the same in my own brain. And I've really woken up to realize, no, I do a really damn good job, and they need to know what I do and why that's a good job.
Got it. That's a good awakening, by the way.
Yeah.
Does anybody have an example of where, they've had someone kind of stop in the tracks and say, here's how I work, here's what we do? No?
I had a,
Aren't you supposed to start with that? That's Michael's whole thing is the smart start. That's kind of where you inform.
Well, yeah. Well, remember a lot of people don't start that way. So, prize and prisoner and this concept of salesperson versus consultant, I'm just giving you as many examples of when you're on the left side of the fence or the right side. So
Brendan, real quick,
go ahead.
This somewhat applies. Got a call from, Tom James, right? They do custom clothes. So I think my rep got a new, she quit, got a new job a couple years ago. I was an abandoned customer. Financial planner referred his Tom James rep to me, Mallory. She calls me, super nice on the phone, of course, right? She's like, look, I've seen that you're a customer. Rob sent me to you. I'd love to come meet. I'm like, okay, right? Can't hurt. Met with her yesterday. She came to the office. She was training somebody. It was later in the day. And she, they have a pretty interesting business. They all sort of like a lender or realtor. They all have their own businesses under Tom James. So, her value prop, right? She did something very similar of, hey, let me show you, and again, I'm already a customer. I know this, but I think she was doing it for the benefit of the rookie, right? Hey, let me show you how we do things here at Tom James and why a lot of people really enjoy working with us and why we've got, repeat business, blah, blah, blah. And she just went down, hey, we're going to come to you. We're going to save your time. We're going to do X, Y, Z. And she was sort of leading me down this path. And I've been down it before, but, she did a really good job of explaining and justifying why I should work with her. I thought it was good. She did a great job.
Yeah. And she and as a clothing consultant versus a clothing salesperson, she sells process and like outcomes versus, hey, I've got a coat for you.
Right. Yeah. When you walk into your closet, I can't remember how she phrased it, but you're going to have these groupings of outfits. I'm like, oh, this is great. This is really nice.
Yeah. Get ready for a $5,000 sale, Michael.
Right. Exactly. And then at the end, let me ask you, Michael, who do you know? And then, hey, Mallory, let me ask you, we're in business together here. Like, hey, who do you know that will be buying in the next 6 to 12 months? You said your mom, right? Yeah. So I figured, hey, why not? Let's meet and let's talk. But she was good and she presented it well. Yeah.
And I think, obviously she did it on the phone, right?
Well, she was here. No, she came in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So it was a pop-by or she called?
Well, we had a set meeting. And by the way, I had my shirt that needed a new button and she said, try it on. And I put the shirt on. She goes, it's a little bit, do you think it's a little baggy on the sides? I said, I do think that. She's like, well, we can fix that. We can take care of that for you. So anyway, she's buttoning the sides of the shirt. She's tailored, right? So at the end of the day, at the end, she has this like promotion where it's like the forgotten customer, like, the customer that's about to leave. So I got a free custom shirt. I did buy a rain jacket. So she did make a sale. So, but again, right, that's going above and beyond. I got something out of it. She got something out of it. It was good.
Hey, well, it's crazy how like, I think of us like songwriters sometimes, and like You just wrote a song, Michael. You're my forgotten customer program in the mortgage business. In the mortgage business, there's a forgotten customer program, and we're all guilty of it. And here's why I know. If we went back to our, by the way, I've got a deal. Is McCain on the call? He better be.
Yeah,
there he is.
Yeah, he's on.
So one of my things is like, he's a new loan officer, and I wanted him to help me just call my forgotten customers. And McCain, this is it. Ring, ring. You're part of Brendan's forgotten customer program. I've been working with him for 2 years, and we just got out of a meeting, and he helped you in 2013, and he totally forgot you. And part of the forgotten customer program, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. This is what we do. There's zero obligation. If you haven't really remembered your last 7 mortgages you did elsewhere, and you did them with like big ass companies with shitty over the phone sales reps, me and Brendan would like to enroll you into our forgotten program. And by the way, we'll come and sew the button on your shirt. We'll do a little, we'll touch you on the shoulders and make you feel good about yourself. And then you'll buy a $5,000 suit from us. Right, Michael? They're always really good. They smell good. They come in. I had a Tom James salesperson. Yeah. Yeah. I think I had a guy and a girl. They work together. They always pair up. They always pair up. Yeah. And then you spend about $2,700 on a jacket.
But from they justify their price, right? They're very expensive, right? They're not cheap, but I was telling John, it's cost per wear. Yeah, I break it down on a cost per wear basis, and they'll tailor it forever. Free buttons, right? You break them, they come and replace them. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, so the next thing, example. Okay, so shifting gears on this left side and right side, the prisoner says, I'm calling as many realtors as I can. The prize consultant says, I have an ideal realtor I'm seeking. Can anyone relate to this? I think we all can.
Yep.
Any examples of this recently where all of a sudden you just went on a realtor call barrage, and as a salesperson, you met with a realtor, and within 5 minutes, you knew, oh God, this is a terrible call or a terrible meeting. Abort. Any examples? Gloracell, anybody? I'm looking at names.
Grant, I know you've had one.
Yeah, I had one not long ago. The client had the realtor actually that he had met, and I did an initial phone call with the lady. I forget her name now. And just hated her on the phone. So called the client, said, hey, let's fire her. I'm going to introduce you to somebody else. I just said, hey, my time is very valuable. And I know for me to do the best job for you, I have a certain person that I do really, really well with. And I want to make sure I keep the most coin in your pocket. So I have to kind of let you steer. You kind of have to go another direction. The client was very respectful about it. They were like, wow, thank you, Grant, for raising a red flag. I just said, hey, I know enough about realtors at this point to know who's good and who's not on the phone.
What was it about the call that you could tell that you did not like her?
She told me on the phone, when I was kind of talking about hey, well, kind of how my process works is when you find that house of theirs, before we submit any offers, I send a mortgage scale every single time. I want them to review the numbers to kind of see how we could structure the deal, maybe with some seller credits, because it's really important to this client. And she basically was like, no, you're just the mortgage person. I'll advise them on that. And I was just like, yep, all right, you're done.
Yeah.
Show me your 1099, because you're done now. We're firing you. I just told her on the phone, I was like, well, this is how I work, and the client, I've done very well in what I do, and I'm hitting a record year and a down year. So let's,
right.
And I didn't fire her there on the phone. I just politely just said, okay, well, we'll talk to the client, and great to meet you, and hung up. And then she called me again that afternoon, but I didn't answer. So
yeah, that's awesome. And that's taking control of the situation, right? And leading and being, right, taking a leadership role with your customer, and not, because I think a lot of loan officers would have just been like, oh, okay, how what's the next step, right? And letting the realtor or the customer lead, where that's not that's not leadership, right? That's just following. That's the prisoner.
And I got to refer one of my great agents, and
Right.
she did an incredible job. You know, she's very loving, and like that's what this client. They became friends. So
That's
you know,
awesome.
So yeah, that was my most recent one.
And I would,
Nice.
one more comment about that, because I think some loan officers on the call would be like, hey, it's my opportunity. If my customer met a realtor, maybe it's an opportunity for me to meet a new realtor. While that's true, it's got to be the right fit, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's not the right fit and you don't feel like you can get really good traction quickly, that realtor is going to refer to their lender. So I think you got to be careful. I would always take the approach of unless there's such a tight bond between the realtor and the customer, try to refer to your agent.
Of course. Yeah. And I have had success where it's like, you get that initial phone call with that realtor and you realize they're a great person. They're really good at what they do. And I always like to hey, can I come to you and just meet you for 30 minutes just so we're on the same page? Because remember, this is our paychecks on the line,
Right.
deal $7,000 payday. So, I'm not going to risk that with someone that, could ruin that for me. So gotta be a little selfish.
I forget. And is Andy on the call?
Yep.
I remember, Andy, do you remember we had some deal that was like a Trey deal where it was your deal, like your first couple of months out, and then we lost it? And I said, dude, did you go meet the realtor? Was this you? I think this was you. And I was pissed off. No, it was a Northwestern deal, and we lost the deal because the realtor eventually referred their lender, and I got mad at you because I was like, dude, how did you not go meet with the realtor if we had them pre-approved for 6 months?
Yeah,
And then,
Tim Gilbert.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Ashton Group realtor.
Yeah.
No,
and
I called her like a dozen times and she never picked up the phone until her client was making
the bottom line was we lost the deal, and I was getting mad at you, standing up going, Andy, your job is to go meet that realtor and to run interference, because their job is to refer their lender when they feel it's good enough, or to take our estimate and yank it and send it to their lender and go, hey, we've got a deal.
Yeah.
Never trust the friendly realtor until you can.
Yeah.
Good example, Grant. Good example. Thanks for examining that, Michael. So the last one we had written down was, I trust people to pitch me to their clients or give out my card. That's a salesperson. Versus, I tell my business partners to refer me and to put me in the best possible position to actually help their clients. Or I tell my business partners, how to refer me to put me in the best possible position to help their clients. So I think that's kind of the other one. It's doesn't it almost feels like when we're trying to say to someone, here's how you can refer me, it can border on arrogance. Does that sound, does that resonate with any of you?
It can, but if you do it the right way, right?
Yeah, I think if you come from the position, let me tell Christina I'm finishing my call. Finishing call. Finishing sales call. When it comes from the, she knew I walked up here. When it comes from a position of empathy and you want to help, it's better than, than if you're just trying to say, hey, here's the only people I want to work with, and here's how you put me there. And I think that some examples, has anybody recently said to their, anyone, here's how I'd like to be referred and here's how I can best help your clients? Does anybody have an example?
I do.
Laura said,
mine is with my Calendly. So the way I like to be referred is when you're speaking to your client who is looking to get pre-approved, go ahead and get on my Calendly and say, hey, the first step is to get pre-approved with my preferred lender. She's available tomorrow at 2:00. Are you available for a mortgage consultation, a 10-minute mortgage consultation? And they will book that right on my calendar.
Oh, wow.
And that is super helpful because on the Calendly, they could put notes, hey, they're looking for, a second home, or they want to keep their home and purchase the next, or whatever. And it's scheduled right then and there. So I know that they're, really looking, and I can prepare. And and I tell my agents, this is the best way to refer me. Go ahead and schedule them right away. Here's my calendar. Let's go ahead. And if the fastest way to get a pre-approval is to schedule a mortgage consultation with me as quickly as possible. And so far, it's working.
Yeah, your system is really dialed in. It's working. So kudos, really good.
I've got an idea to add.
What's up, John? Let's hear it.
So it's a document that Amy shared with us called an agent toolkit. It's like a cheat sheet that you would distribute to your referral partners, agents specifically. Goes over like LTVs, max concessions, like some general info about seasoning, on different public record events. Some like small guides like manufactured housing, minimum down payments, depending on purchase reason. But there's a section up at the top where it's like why Mutual of Omaha Mortgage, where you can kind of do some framing to the agent. But what I've brainstormed is I want to fit in a section with a suggestion for the best way to refer me, so that the agent has it. And I know we played with the idea of laminating these or mailing them out, or different ideas.
What would your best way, or the best way for our agent to refer you?
Well, I think one, you want to go over what your preference is, right? So 3-way text, 3-way email, right? Like an introduction, and then specifically the verbiage that you think, is most important to share with that client, like 1 or 2 sentences, right? I think that you'd really enjoy working with John. He works really hard up front to ensure that, he's pre-approving you quickly and accurately, and plans an outstanding meeting right away that they call a Smart Start meeting, where he's going to answer all of your mortgage questions and talk about payment, blah, 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 right?
Yeah. Got it. Cool. Yeah. Coach him up, right? Let him know exactly how to refer you.
It's funny. My only example of this recently is I have an agent on a team. She's kind of a rookie. She kind of violates a lot of the stuff. She's really stuck in salesperson mode, and she's annoying. And some of the guys on my team know who I'm talking about. So recently, I think I've turned the corner with her, because she's desperate for sales, but she's actually got a lot of activity going on. And the way she used to refer me was always like, here's one of our preferred lenders. It was like one of our preferred lenders. I used to always hate that. And it was just like, hey, this is one of our preferred lenders. Please connect. Now I said, listen, your clients all need a Smart Start meeting, and you have to sell that. Like, you have to sell my Smart Start meeting. You don't have to say this is a preferred lender and connect, because then I have to sell it. Like, you're the one advocating my services, not just here, connect with Brendan. He's a lender. Because then they put me in that box of what lenders do, right? If they had gone to Bank of America and walked in the branch and gotten a quote, like, I'm just another guy to give them another quote. Like, they don't get it. So recently, and all I can say is, I've said to her, hey, how often do those texts, when you do a 3-way text, and then I respond, hey, Mary, nice to meet you. Alex, thanks for the referral. Mary, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, and Alex, nothing fucking happens. Mary doesn't respond. And you just met her and talked to her for 30 minutes at an open house, and you think you moved the needle. Like, it doesn't help us. So now, finally, she started to do the, hey, Michael, so good meeting you at the open house. As I mentioned, I think you could really benefit from a Smart Start meeting with Brendan. It's been really helpful for other clients. And, you could learn a ton in that meeting about home ownership. Brendan, meet Michael, and by the way, we've got a meeting with this guy, Drew. It was like the first one she teed up right. He owns in East Nashville, bought in 2016, has a 3.25% rate with a $1,400 mortgage payment. His house is worth about $700,000 and he owes about $200,000. And he's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. His house only has 2 bedrooms and he's got 2 kids.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's like, and when I finally got him on the phone, I just said, hey man, I think you've got a complex situation. I'm not going to sell you a mortgage. I'm just going to help you with a plan. We call it like a move up buyer smart start meeting. Can you come in? And he was like, and the funny thing is this, here's another thing that salespeople and consultants differentiate when we're just talking about it. The biggest thing is, what's your timeline? What's your time frame?
Mm-hmm.
A consultant always asks like, hey, before we do anything, what is your timeline on all of this so I can get a bearing on things? Like if you guys did nothing but change that.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Justin. Great. I'm glad we connected. I'm getting ready to run into a meeting. I'm in New York. I'm going to go on a boat tour here in a couple minutes, just so I'm very clear on how I can help you and show you what I do. What is your timeline for home ownership? Oh my God, Justin, that's a great question. Like Ron and I, like right now, our lease ends in April of next year and we're waiting on our okay, fucking A, there it is, April of next year. Right? Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. We've got all sorts of time on my calendar for you to come in. Stop.
Mm-hmm.
Like, by the way, when you hire an architect and talk to an architect, when you hire a lawyer, when you hire anyone who is of high value in a complex sale that is a consultant, that is the first thing they say. What's your timeline or expectation on all of this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a branding kit on something that we're going to brand that's like something cool here. And, you know, my guy who's my brander, first thing he said, hey, what's your timeline? And our answer was yesterday. And he was like, oh, shit. He's English. And he's like, oh, my God, my calendar is full for the next month. But let me see what I can do. Right? If someone's, by the way, that's what a consultant would say to someone saying, oh my God, the agent this, and we want to see the house tomorrow. And oh my God, we're just like, you know, every Zillow lead that every realtor thinks it's right now. So when you guys hear speed to lead, that's like speed to greed.
Yeah.
Speed to salesperson versus consultant. Speed to shit. Let me hurry up and create shit because I'm supposed to. We can warp you. Hey, there's something called timeliness, right? There's something called timeliness in response to a phone call or a message. And I think if you guys realize that, you know, hey, if you're at a one night stay motel and you don't answer the phone, you lose the sale, right? But if you're in a long-term consultant-based business, you know, a 24-hour return response, I think is decent. Yeah. Michael, what do you think about a response time on an inquiry? Like, what's your?
I mean, I try to do. Obviously, I'm going to try to do same day, depending on when I get it. Right? If it comes in at 7 p.m., that's different. But if I get a call or a text or an email in the morning, they'll hear from me that day. But yeah, half a day I think is realistic. If it's 2 seconds later, they probably think you don't have much going on. But yeah, and the timeline thing is huge, right? What is your timeline? Oh, I'm under contract, and I got pre-approved through ABC. I'm just shopping around. Not our ideal client, but at least you know what you're dealing with. So,
yeah. Anybody have any examples of any of this come to mind or kind of dig up just something where, again, these are just basics on like, how is your mindset clear on what you're building? And I was watching this video on David Ledbetter, and it's like 95% of golfers make mistakes in their takeaway that then sets them up for failure for the rest of that golf swing. And all I did was take notes on this video because he's trained like Ernie Els and Nick Faldo. He's trained like 7 world number ones. And he's like, hey, for amateurs, it's the takeaway. And there's three distinct things that they fuck up so that when they're doing, trying to hit the ball, like it's immediate and it's almost impossible to correct. And all I thought was, it's the same in sales.
Mm-hmm.
If your first 5 minutes and your setup, your mindset, and this is mindset, this isn't just smart start, but this is like mentally, are you catching yourself, Michael, that if an example would be they text you at 1, but you have 2 meetings and you have a closing, and then you didn't get back to them, and then you were like, oh shit, it's 7:00, I'm eating with Allison, and you're like, screw it, I'm just gonna wait until the morning. Like, is your mindset the next morning, hey, I'm so sorry I didn't get back to you yesterday, I saw that you had inquired? Like,
I mean, that might be maybe it's in my mind, but I wouldn't say that, right? Because I think Michael, we put these unrealistic pressures on ourselves, right?
You understand that people do that.
Yeah.
They apologize the very beginning of the call. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you.
You never, I wouldn't apologize. If anything, if you drop the ball.
The world's best lawyer that calls you 7 days later after your inquiry says, hey, Michael, I got your inquiry.
Yeah.
Rod here. Thank you. How did you get my name?
Right. Yeah.
Why? Because he knows lawsuits take a year.
Right.
And if the argument would be this, if you realize that 8 out of 10 of your clients, as long as you don't, apparently my friend Brett works with Latinos in Denver, and when Latinos call, if you don't answer, this is his explanation, and he speaks fluent Spanish. He's the most hilarious guy on the planet, and he does a lot of builder business, but he says if you don't pick up the phone and answer, they go on to the next, and it's like, and then when they're ready, like it happens in the next 30 to 45 days. And I was like, Brett, I had to fly out there and actually believe this, because what is it in the Latino culture that would make everything such an instant thing? And he couldn't answer that. Gloricel, maybe you could help on that.
I was going to say, this is facts right here.
Okay. Well, but Gloricel, the rest of the world outside of the Latino population is on a timeline that's normally not instant.
Correct. They want to instantly know you're going to work with them, but then when you agree to work with them, we're going to take 45 days.
There you go. Well, I think the big thing is just don't apologize unless you truly if there's some timeline that you have. I just feel like it puts you in a weird position right away.
Yeah.
And then everything you're doing is to impress the client. And trust me, Michael, I think that even at the highest level that you play and I play, there are times where we're off our game and we're kind of selling a loan to that client and catching ourselves kind of in this, oh shit, I'm making promises and I'm apologizing and I'm like, everything's flustered and I don't like how this deal is setting up and I'm getting anxious and I'm getting mad at my processor and I'm lashing out because I'm acting like a freaking salesperson.
Even this is what I would say. Let's say you drop the ball and you drop the ball.
Yeah.
Say this instead of, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Say this. Oh, hey, Gloricel, thank you very much for your patience. Now let me ask you a question. You were referred over by, thank you for your patience is a lot better than saying, oh my God, I dropped the ball. I'm so sorry I didn't call you back yesterday. Right. It doesn't put you, at a disadvantage right away.
All right. Anybody have any feedback on any of this? This is high level. This is like mental golf / sales. Is any of this resonating?
Somebody that we haven't heard from yet.
Yes.
Brandon, I have a good example of kind of how a realtor teed me up and set me up with the Smart Start for the client. So she called me and was like, hey, I got somebody that wants to meet you. It's my cousin. Or like, I want to introduce you to this person. So I said, great. Put us in a 3-way text and like tell him what I do. So she said, hey, McCain, I've started a chat here with you and Tyrell. I told him a little bit about your upfront meeting and how you're great at educating first-time home buyers. Can we come by your office anytime after 3 on Tuesday? I said, yes, that's great. Can we do 4 o'clock? Tyrell, I'll call you right after this so I can tell you a little bit about the meeting. He said, yes, 4 works for me. And then I called him, did the Triangle of Trust. They came in that week, had a great smart start, and he's not ready to buy just now, but he trusts me, and it was a good smart start.
That was teed up perfectly.
And McCain, just like a par 3 where you take a practice swing, you grab the 7-iron, there's water in front, you feel good, you tee the ball up, one more look at the hole, your swing is like you want it to be, and you flush it, and you're right there 30 feet from the hole.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that was no big deal. Like, that's how it's supposed to work.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean, it was nice that she reached out to me first and was like, kind of like said, I have someone for you. And then I could just tell her, like, this is how I want you to set it up. And then she set it up perfectly. And she even came in for the Smart Start. It was a breeze. So if every single Smart Start could be like that, like, that's the goal.
And I think that's the goal there. If your realtors understand the value of your Smart Start, they will set it up the right way every time. So that was awesome, McCain. That realtor saw the Smart Start, and that reinforces it even more. And now they understand the value.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Great share. Anybody else have a share? Any other thoughts on prize versus prisoner? Any kind of mindset shift? Like, hey, here's something that comes to mind in this whole concept of like trying to stay in prize mode and consultant mode.
I got something. I think I texted Michael about it. Like when you were asking about my week, kind of overview, Michael.
Yeah.
On the weekends, obviously we're answering text messages and stuff from realtors.
Yeah.
If you get something on Saturday morning or like Friday night, I just make it very clear. I only take calls in between this time and this time. I only can send approval letters between this time and this time. Because then, like, weekend is my wife's time, family time. Like, you definitely, like I always just tell them, hey, I'll be at my office at 2. I'll call you then. And I found a lot of people really respected that, over the weekend. And even my agents, they kind of learned, like, hey, that's Grant's time. Like, oh yeah, Grant, that's perfectly fine. We can wait for this until 2 o'clock when you're free.
Now, when you say 2 o'clock, you mean during that weekend, or are you talking about on Monday?
Yeah. Over the weekend, I just have like a set time that I like. This is when I'll do this. Like instead of like I am answering calls like at the lake, I'm on the phone here, and then I'm going. We're going to do something with the family. Then I'm on the phone there. Like it's just like, hey guys, I'm answering all calls at 2. I'll look at that then when I always tell everybody when I'm at my office.
And that's pretty. Yeah. I mean, look, you're taking calls on the weekend, right? So I think they can respect the fact that you're going to dictate when you do take them.
Yeah. I didn't used to do that. I didn't used to do that at all, and I found like people are a lot more appreciative of your time on the weekend.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
I love that, Grant. Setting a boundary for yourself. It's good.
I mean, look, realtors do it. I mean, they have it on their emails and their voicemails. I answer calls from 12 to 4, and if your call is after 7, it'll be returned the next business day. I mean, you hear it all the time. So,
if it's that important, they'll make themselves free at 2 o'clock. They're buying a house.
Yeah.
They'll make themselves free. I don't care if they're at a barbecue. They'll step away. Like it's important. They'll answer your phone call when you call at 2. So.
And I would say too, just in conclusion, it's harder to have that mentality now when you don't have, there's not as many referrals, we don't have as many referrals I don't have as many referrals now as I did a year ago, right? 2 years ago. So, but so it's hard to have that, but I think it's important to stick to the guns and as much as you can because, just do the other activities that generate the referrals and, just stick with it.
I've also learned on the weekends when you do that, the client, when you get on the phone call, it's a lot more of a factual phone call rather than an emotional one because they've had time to process the house they've gone to lunch, they've sat down. And then when you get on the phone, it's a lot like very B2B, 5 minutes, you're on and off. Here's your scale, here's your letter, pick 1 through 6 on what you want to offer. There's a seller credit at the bottom. You pick. I recommend number 3.
Yeah. And
the realtor sees it too.
And look, if they've paid $495 to get certified, they gain access to your weekend schedule. I mean, that's part of the presentation of being a certified buyer. Would you like to have access on the weekends? Real estate happens on the weekends.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of that because I used to run around ragged and I have little kids. I have a 7 and a 4-year-old. And, I'm in the midst of soccer practice and T-ball games. And, you would get people that call that sound super urgent. Like, oh my gosh, we need this pre-approval right this second. We're about to make an offer. And then, sometimes their credit isn't even where it needs to be, or what, you spend an hour on this file and then you realize they're not even qualified. And so I really push that in my Smart Start. Hey, I have a family, I have young kids. If you're pre-approved, my commitment to you is that I am accessible and available to you on the weekends. If you're, if they're taking highest and best at 8 o'clock on a Sunday and you need an updated pre-approval, I got you. But that's specifically for pre-approved clients that are committed to working with me. If you're just taking a look at a house and you want a quick pre-qual and it's Sunday at 8 p.m., I might not be able to do that for you if you're not really committed and pre-approved. I really push that in my Smart Start. And people respect it. Like Grant said, when you set the boundaries, they do respect it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've even had people, like similar, Glorcel, very, very similar. Like, we have a call scheduled for 10 a.m. and then they text you 10 minutes before, hey, I got to go pick up this person. I can't jump on our call. That's supposed to be 5 or 10 minutes. No, can I call you this afternoon? My answer immediately is, yeah, no, I'm busy. Even though I can easily hop on that call, and I've even the realtors and they're like, dude, what the heck? You're like, dude, your client can't jump on a 10-minute call because he's too busy. We could talk to 3 days from now. Like we'll try out again. Because otherwise I do all this work and then I don't get paid. And neither do you. So he's not a good client.
Yep. That's strong. Cool. Brendan in the city, did we lose him? Is he on the boat tour?
Yeah,
He's swimming.
He might be. I love it. He
fell
jumps
in the
on
water. He's with the Swans.
He always tells us he always tells us like a day before he goes on a vacation. Like he's walking out of the office. Yeah, guys, hey, I'll see you next week. I'm going to New York. He's leaving. 1 hour.
You're like, wait.
You should be at the airport, Brendan, 2 hours before. Yeah, I'm going in an hour.
I found out once he was already in New York. But I appreciate Grant and Glorcel at the end right there. I mean, we're expecting our first child here in February, or late February, early March. And, I'm kind of notorious for, working 7 days a week, being on site, like with my builder. Like tomorrow I'll be on site for full day and Sunday I got another thing to do. And I mean, I run myself ragged. Before that, I was just pounding up in houses. And it's because my wife works a lot of weekends and I get out there and I do it. But it's,
Rob,
whatever it was like 3-4 weeks ago.
When you took your weekend off, you were so fresh.
Yeah, it's when Colorado played USC and I know Ole Miss played LSU and Titans, we played the Bengals. And it was the first weekend I'd taken off in like months.
Wow.
And I'm not going to lie, it was awesome. And so like I'm trying to set more boundaries now where I don't work 7 days a week. And like you can't get me on the phone past, 8 p.m. and all that. Because also know at the same time, come here in 4 months, like I'm just not gonna be able to do it. Yeah. So it's nice to hear the people that actually do that.
That's been good timing for you though, Rob, because you kind of had like the year and a half come up, and now you're sort of getting the benefits from that. You don't necessarily have to grind as hard as you did at the start. That's not advocating complacency. It's just being realistic about your time.
True. Thank you.
You came in on that Monday. You were so smart. You had such a big smile. You didn't have any bags in your eyes. I was
Mhm.
like, man, look at Rob. You got a little tan, maybe. You had a cocktail on the weekend.
Oh yeah.
Good.
All my teams won too.
Everybody won, which that doesn't happen.
All your teams
Yeah.
won. Life is good.
He starts.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're
Titans,
Michael.
man. We got
Unless you're
rough.
Michael, your teams don't win.
Yeah, right. This is bull crap.
Luckily, my wife went to Georgia, so I get to piggyback that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think you're talking about the Braves. So all right, we're gonna end it on that note. Hey, yeah, start setting the boundaries right now, Rob. We got the baby coming, so yeah, little baby steps, no pun intended. So everybody, thanks for joining. Have a great day, great weekend. Adios.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
Thanks, Mike.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care.